All right. Hello, everyone. Good evening. My name is Nicole, and welcome back to our English class. For today, we are continuing with the topic on listening and pronunciation for TOEFL, or teaching of English as foreign language. We are going to focus on phrases. In the previous session, we focused on the vocabulary or the key words or key terms relating to TOEFL. So we're going to focus again on phrases for today, which is a crucial aspect of mastering the TOEFL exam, understanding and effectively using common TOEFL phrases. So these aren't just a random grouping of words, they are often idiomatic expressions and also transition words or even specific vocabulary that appear repeatedly in the reading, listening, speaking, and writing sections of the TOEFL exam. Think of them as building blocks. The more familiar you are with these phrases, the quicker you will comprehend complex sentences, which is, the more naturally you will express your ideas and the more accurately you will convey your meaning. So, we will be looking at how these phrases function in different contexts, like what nuances they carry, and most importantly, how you can integrate them with, how you can integrate them um, with different contexts seamlessly into your own English usage. So it's not just for the test for TOEFL exam, but also for broader academic and professional communication. So yes, we're going to focus on phrases for today, and we start with the first set of phrases, which is focused on expressing opinions. So when you're asked to give your view on a topic, whether in a speaking task or a writing essay, you need more than just the phrase "I think," right? So this table, it focuses on phrases that allow you to express your opinion clearly, confidently, and with varying degrees of certainty or nuance. We will look at how to introduce your viewpoint, to acknowledge other perspectives, and generally to articulate your stance effectively. First phrase is "it is widely believed that." Again, it is widely believed that. So this is simple meaning of this is that we mean many people think this is true. So this phrase, it is used to show that an idea or opinion is commonly accepted by a large number of group of people. So it doesn't say exactly who believes it. Of course, it's not very specific with the people um with the amount of people and who are the people that is pertained to the ones who believed that particular idea, but it suggests general agreement in society, in research, or even in media. So it adds formality and objectivity, which is of course useful in writing when you want to present popular or established ideas without making it personal. Like, for example, if you try to say or write, "it is widely believed that exercise improves mental health," something like that. That is, you think, many people think this is true. Okay, so you try to use this phrase in both speaking and writing, so in essays and formal writing, when you are referencing common knowledge, or when you just want to avoid saying "I think." Okay? All right. So pronunciation wise, it is widely believed that. So let's start with let's try to break down the pronunciation of this phrase. First, starting with "it," which is the first syllable, it has a short E vowel sound paired with the letter T sound, of course. And then followed by "is," which has a buzzing sound. So it's not a simple hissing sound, but it is a buzzing sound, meaning that the last sound of this syllable is voiced. So letter Z sound is voiced sound. Next to that is "wide." This is the stressed syllable This is a stressed syllable in this phrase. It rhymes with ride. Wide has a diphthong sound. If you're familiar with diphthong, and if you remember from our previous discussions, a diphthong sound is it contains a vowel sound that smoothly glides to another vowel sound, meaning it just contains vowel plus vowel sound. Vowel plus vowel sound, it will result to a diphthong sound. Okay, so in here, in this case, this is I, A and I, wide. Okay, I, that is a diphthong sound, and it is part of the word wide. Okay, next to that is Lee. So yeah, widely, the word is widely, I'm sorry, but the first syllable of it is wide, which is of course another, which is of course a word on its own. But then again, wide has a diphthong sound. And then there's a suffix li, which makes the word an adverb. So li, it sounds just like, it has a long e sound. So li, widely. And then followed by the word believed. Now here in believed, the whole word is not stressed. The second syllable is the stressed syllable here, which is which is lived. So believed. You stress on the second syllable, lived. So here, the ed sound, right? Because it's past tense, there's an ed sound. Yeah, there's an ed suffix. There's an ed suffix here, and as far as you can remember, I have a discussion about the different sounds, the different versions of ed sounds. One of which is letter T sound. So this is the sound that is produced in this word believed. Okay, so believed. Next to that is that. So here, it uses this one in the IP transcription. That one, it signifies the voiced th sound, like in that. So there's a clear th sound, and then there's a soft, short a vowel, a vowel sound. So that's the it uses the voice th sound. Now, before we proceed, just to quickly review how we can identify a word, or a sound that is voiced. You just need to touch your neck and then say the sound. If your throat vibrates, then it's voiced. If not, of course, it is not voiced, or it's voiceless. So let's try the word, or the voice th sound. V, v. It did vibrate, which means that it's a voice th sound. Or that. It still vibrated, so it's very obvious that we're using the voice th sound. So all in all, this phrase is pronounced as, it is widely believed that. Okay, all right. Next to that is, what do we have? From my perspective. Again, from my perspective, this is in my opinion. So this phrase, it introduces your personal view or way of seeing situations. So the phrase from my perspective, it helps to show that your statement is based on your own experience or understanding, and it sounds thoughtful and respectful of other opinions. Say, for example, if you try to say, from my perspective, remote work increases productivity. So it is less direct than saying, I think, which can make your writing sound more balanced. Okay? So try to use that phrase when you want to offer personal insights in both formal and semi-formal arguments, because it can be used to those different contexts. You can try to acknowledge multiple viewpoints also. Pronunciation wise, from my perspective, let's start with from, which has a short, what do you call that? It starts with a consonant cluster or consonant blend for the consonant sounds of letters F and R. So, and then it's followed by a schwa sound, that one, an upside down E, we call that a schwa sound, which means that this particular vowel in this word is stressed. I know not stressed, but it is unstressed. It is quick and relaxed vowel sound. So it's like an sound. Okay, so from. Again, from. Next to that is my, which is a diphthong sound, I, following with per, which, has also a schwa sound, and then spec, which is the stressed part of the word perspective, and lastly tiv, which has a short e vowel sound. Okay, so this is from my perspective. Again, from my perspective. Next phrase is I would argue that. Again, I would argue that this is this means I believe and support this point. So it introduces a strong personal opinion, especially one that the speaker is prepared to support with evidence. So it is commonly used in argumentative writing or debates. Basically, you can use this in persuasive writing or speeches when you want to introduce an opinion with confidence, or in discussions or in debates, as I've mentioned earlier. Pronunciation wise, it starts with a diphthong sound I, and then followed by would, which has a short u sound, and then the word argue, where the first syllable is the stressed syllable. Here it sounds like arg. It doesn't sound like something. I cannot really pinpoint something, but it starts with a short and then followed by a consonant cluster of both sounds, both consonants, letters R and G. And then the other syllable for the word argue is U, which very easy to pronounce. It has a short U sound. It's soft U sound. So it then ends with that. We're familiar with that because I've mentioned it in the first phrase. So it uses again a voice TH sound. So all in all, this phrase is pronounced as I would argue that. I would argue that. Again, I would argue that. All right, so this phrase on its own cannot stand alone. So it needs more additional information, because if you would just use it as its own, it doesn't make sense. Like, it's lacking. Same as the previous phrases and the following phrases all throughout our discussion. Okay. Next is there is substantial evidence. The meaning is that there is a strong support for an idea. So it is used when presenting proof of research to support an idea, because the word substantial here, it means large or important. And evidence, of course, it refers to facts, it refers to data and examples. So together, this phrase adds power and credibility to what you are saying. So you can use this in academic or persuasive writing, where you can support your claims with research, or when you want to sound confident and factual. So usually your tone here should be formal and authoritative. Okay. Pronunciation wise, it starts with there, which used a voice th sound, and then followed by is, which it has a buzzing sound instead of a hissing sound. So if we say buzzing sound, it uses letter Z instead of letter S in the sound, but in spelling, it's letter S. Then sub, which is the first syllable of substantial, it is soft, and it follows, or it uses short sound. So sub. Stain, which is the voiced not voiced, but the stressed syllable of the word. So it has a short sound also, and then it starts with a consonant clusters of letters S and T sounds. And then another syllable of the word, sustain, shall, which is the last syllable of the word. It is soft, like the last syllable of special, something like that. So it starts with also a consonant cluster as an H sound, which sounds like sh. So it looks like this in the IP transcription. It looks like F without the middle line. Okay? Substantial. And then lastly, the word evidence, which starts with short E sound, and then V with short E sound, and then dense with short E sound, and then we ending with letter S sound, a hissing sound. So all in all, this is pronounced as there is substantial evidence. Again, there is substantial evidence. Following this is the phrase, it is important to note that. So this is saying we should pay attention to this. It is typically used to highlight something the speaker or the writer believes is especially important or worth attention. So it is often used before stating a key fact, a contrast, or even a warning, as it is a formal way of saying that this part matters. Okay? So, of course, formal and serious tone should be used when saying this. It is important to note that. Pronunciation wise, we're familiar with it is with a buzzing sound, and then im, first syllable of important, with a short E vowel sound. Por, the stressed syllable of the word, it has a por. So it has a short O sound. And then tant, which has a schwa sound, which means that the vowel sound here is quick, unstressed, and relaxed. And then following this word important is to note. So to is very simple. It is very simple to say. We're familiar with that already. To, short O sound, and then note, it has a diphthong sound O. So this one, that one that I highlighted, that's the diphthong sound of note, and then it ends with that, which we are very familiar of. So all in all, it is important to note that. Again, it is important to note that. Okay, and finally, a phrase in expressive opinions is one could reasonably infer. Again, one could reasonably infer. So it means it's logical to conclude this. So it suggests that based on the information available, someone can make a reasonable conclusion. So it's commonly used in formal and academic writing to present a judgment that seems fair or logical based on facts. So it is used in analysis or interpretation to introduce a conclusion based on evidence, or even just in academic or technical writing. So with that, of course, our tone is, or it should be objective and reasoned. Okay, pronunciation wise, starts with one, which has a short in the middle. So it is then followed with could, which has a long u sound, and then reason, which is the stressed syllable here, not a syllable, but it's stressed part here. It starts with re, which has a short E vowel sound, and then son, which also has a short O vowel sound. Okay, and then reasonably, reason, and then there's an sound there. This one, the schwa sound, basically, that's a kuan. That's a very short, like in safa. So sound, and then blee. It has a long E sound. It starts with a consonant cluster, which basically is an addition of the sounds of consonants consonants B and L. Okay, so reasonably. So reasonably, and then infer, where the first syllable in has a short E sound, and fur, which is the stressed syllable of the word, has a short E vowel sound. So All in all, this is one could reasonably infer. Again, one could reasonably infer. So that is for the first set of words on expressing opinions. Now to check, of course, your understanding of our first set of words, we shall have a time to practice. We shall have a practice drill. It's very simple. What I want you to do is just to read the sentence with me. Read the sentence in your own comfortable spaces there. I trust you that you will do that. So let's start immediately with the first sentence. Now the highlighted parts here are the phrases that we've tackled like earlier. Okay? So first sentence is, it is widely believed that a healthy diet contributes to a longer life. Next, from my perspective, remote work offers more flexibility than traditional office jobs. I would argue that investing in renewable energy sources is crucial for our future. Regular exercise improves mental well-being. There is substantial evidence to suggest this. All employees, not just a select few, will be affected by the new policy, and it is important to note that sales will increase significantly next quarter, as one could reasonably infer from the data. So that's the last phrase. And with that, we continue or we move on with academic argumentation phrases, starting with, before that, I'm just gonna shortly explain what these phrases include. So we know that TOEFL often requires you to build a coherent argument, which support your claims with evidence and logical reasoning. So this section, it covers the phrases that are essential for academic argumentation. You can think about how you introduce a claim, how you provide support, how you present counter arguments, or even just concede a point. So these phrases, it will help you construct a strong, well-supported argument that is, of course, typical of an academic discourse. And one of the phrases is according to recent studies. The meaning of this is based on new research. So this phrase is used to show that the information you're about to present comes from current research findings. So it lends credibility to your argument by indicating that you are relying on sources or data, not just, opinion. It is commonly used in academic writing, in journalism, and formal reports. So that is according to recent studies. You do this when you want to cite research in essays or reports, or you want to back up a claim with external evidence, or just, to add credibility to an argument. So, of course, tone here is formal and academic. And pronunciation is starting with according, where the stress syllable is on the second syllable core. It starts with a schwa sound, and then core, the stress syllable, and then ding, which is a short E sound, and then ending with a nasal sound, NG, or ng sound. Next, we're familiar with that. Recent. So first syllable it has a long E vowel sound. Now again, look at the IPA transcription. The one I highlighted, as you can see, there is a colon beside. There is a colon beside the vowel, right? Again, when this is just a trick. This is a tip for you when you want to try to read the IPA transcription of a word or a phrase. When a vowel has a colon beside it, it is most likely that you say it a little longer. You hold it a bit longer. So, meaning that's a long vowel sound. Here, it's a long E sound. So, this is re, and then sunt. It's followed by the second syllable, sunt. Then, next is studies. Sta. You stress on the word, not the word, the syllable sta, and then these. Again, studies. So it ends with a buzzing sound. So all in all, this is according to recent studies. Again, according to recent studies. Next, the data suggests that So the evidence shows this. It is often used in scientific or analytical writing to explain what the collected information points to. So the word data here, it is often treated as a plural noun in academic context. The singular noun of this, the singular equivalence of this is datum. Yeah, I think that's the singular. And then the word suggest in the phrase, it shows that the evidence supports but doesn't necessarily prove an idea. Okay? So pronunciation wise, we start with the, which has a voice, which uses a voice th sound, and then data, where they is the stress syllable, and then it has a diphthong sound a. Okay, and then it's followed by t, which has a short, vowel sound because there's a schwa there, and then suggest, sa, it has a long a sound, and then just, not long but short a sound, and then just, again, just, it has a little short a sound, and then ends with consonant cluster of the consonant sounds s and t, and then followed by that. We're familiar with that. So they all in all, this is the data suggests that. Again, the data suggests that. Okay, third phrase, this supports the hypothesis. Again, this supports the hypothesis. This agrees with the idea. That's the meaning. It it just, it's just, how do you call that? It's just focusing on that the evidence fits, saying that the evidence fits or confirms a particular idea or explanation, like the hypothesis. So it's frequently used in research papers to show when experimental or observed results back up the original assumption. So you try to summarize the outcome of an experiment, you can use that phrase, or you want to show agreement between data and theory, you can also use that phrase. So yes, it's scientific and analytical in tone. Pronunciation wise, it starts with this, which uses a voice th sound, and then supports, where the ports is the stress syllable, is a syllable that is stressed, and then the, we're familiar with that, and hypothesis, high, where it has a diphthong sound I, p, p, a short o sound, and then thesis, the, which uses a voiceless th sound, and then sis with a short e sound. So this supports the hypothesis. Again, this supports the hypothesis. Next phrase, critics might argue that. So some people may disagree. This phrase, it introduces an opposing viewpoint or a possible objection. So it shows that you are aware of different perspectives, which makes your argument more balanced and thoughtful. So you try to use this when presenting a counter argument, as I've mentioned. Like, you acknowledge the opposing views, you strengthen your credibility by showing awareness of debate. So this is balanced and cautious, basically, when you try to say this phrase. Critics might argue that. Pronunciation wise, we start with critics, where the stress syllable is on the first syllable, crit, which has the short e sound, and then x, which has a short e sound also, and it ends with a hissing sound. Might, where it has a clear diphthong sound, I. Argue, first syllable arg is stressed, and then that. So all in all, this is critics might argue that. Again, critics might argue that. Following this phrase is the phrase, it could be interpreted as. Again, it could be interpreted as. So basically, this means it might be understood in this way. Okay? So it shows that a certain idea, a statement, or even just a result can be understood or explained in a particular way. So it suggests some flexibility or subjectivity in the meaning. It is useful when discussing things like behavior, literature, or indirect communication. So you try to offer a possible explanation, you try to analyze behavior, the text, or just, the results, and usually academic or thoughtful discussion, you try to use this. It could be interpreted as. So it's neutral and analytical in tone. And when you try to pronounce this phrase, it starts with it, which has a short E sound. Could, we're familiar with that. B, where it has a long E vowel sound. And then interpreted, where ter, the second syllable, is stressed. And then as, short and soft. So all in all, this is, it could be interpreted as. It could be interpreted as. Okay, so it ends with a buzzing sound. Again, it could be interpreted as. All right. Lastly, we have the implications are clear. The implications are clear, so the consequences are obvious. So it signals that the phrase, not the phrase, but that the results or meaning of something are easy to understand. Because the word implications here, these are the effects or conclusions that follow from what was said or done. So it's often used to highlight the seriousness or importance of the result. You try to emphasize the significance of a result here. You try to summarize the meaning of evidence here. Or you can just, simply draw strong conclusions. So you are confident and conclusive in tone here. Pronunciation wise, it starts with it. We're familiar with that short, and not it, but the. We're familiar with that also, which uses a voice th sound. And then implications, it starts with im, a stressed syllable, short e sound, using a short e sound. And then pli, which also uses a short e sound. And then k, where it has a diphthong a sound and a stressed syllable also in this word. So there's two stressed syllables in this word. And then it ends with shons. Again, shons, because the spelling is tion, and if you remember tion, it always sounds like shon. Here it's just there's just a letter s here because it's pertaining to a plural thing. So shons, shons, implications, then followed by r, and then clear. Again, clear. So lastly, the last phrase is the implications are clear. Again, the implications are clear. And with that, we are going to see if you are following with me by doing a practice drill. Same pattern, same process. I just want you to read the sentences with me in your own comfortable spaces there. Okay, let's start with the first sentence. Climate change is accelerating at an unprecedented rate, according to recent studies. Increased social media use, the data suggests that, correlates with higher levels of anxiety among young adults. This supports the hypothesis that early childhood education has long-term benefits in cognitive development. Critics might argue that the proposed economic policy could lead to inflation. More countries are adopting renewable energy sources, and it could be interpreted as a sign of progress. And lastly, we need to develop sustainable solutions for food production. The implications are clear given the current trends. So those are phrases for expressing opinions, and we shall move on with phrases for structuring ideas. So good writing and speaking are always organized. So this table is all about the connectors and signposts that guide your audience through your thoughts. So these phrases, it helps you introduce the topics. It helps you to add details, maybe give examples or signal a shift in focus, or just to summarize your points. These connectors can help that. They are crucial for creating logical flow and coherence in your responses, which makes your ideas easy to follow for the reader or the listener, of course. Starting with the first phrase, first and foremost. Again, first and foremost, meaning most importantly, first. So it is a phrase we use when we want to highlight the most important point in a list or discussion. So it's more formal than simply saying first, and adds emphasis to the significance of the first idea that follows. So it signals to the reader or listener that what comes next should be given special attention. Okay? So it is you can use this when you try to introduce your most important point, of course, when you try to start a structured argument, or you just want to emphasize a key idea in speeches or your essays. Okay? So your tone here should be formal and as well as strong. All right. So pronunciation wise, first, the word is first, which has a short E vowel sound and then ends with a consonant cluster sound of the the sounds of the consonants S and T. And then followed by and, which has a schwa sound. Yeah, schwa sound. So it is often reduced to, it's usually not a schwa sound, but in quick speech, it is often reduced to a schwa sound. And then foremost, which has a stress on for, where it has an O sound or a diphthong sound here. So foremost, which as well as in most. And then, so yeah, that's the last part of the phrase. So this is first and foremost. Again, first and foremost. Next, in addition to this, again, in addition to this, basically you mean also. So this phrase is used to add another point, another idea, or piece of information to what has already been said. So it is commonly used in essays and formal speeches to create smooth transitions between supporting points. So in addition to this, it is more formal than simply using also or and, which makes it especially useful in academic or persuasive writing. So you try to add more detail or evidence. You can say in addition to this. You try to transition to a second or supporting point. You can say in addition to this, or you can use this again in formal and academic writing. So that is in addition to this. Pronunciation wise, it starts with in, which has a short e vowel sound, and then a schwa sound. Addition, so it starts with a schwa sound and then dish, which is the stressed syllable, where it has a short e vowel sound and ends with a consonant cluster as an h or sh sound. So following this is to, where it is soft sound, familiar with that. Then this, of course, we're also familiar with that. So again, all in all, this phrase is in addition to this. Again, in addition to this. Following the phrase is another phrase, which is on the other hand. Again, on the other hand simply means in contrast. So it is used when introducing a contrasting idea or opposing point of view. So it helps the listener or the reader understand that what's coming next is different from, excuse me for that. Continuing, where did I left off? Yeah, on the other hand. So here, it is an essential part of clear and balanced argumentation because you try to say the opposite to what was said before. Okay, so you have a balanced argumentation here. So you try to signal fairness and thoughtful comparison between viewpoints. So try to use this when you want to present a contrasting opinion or you just want to show the other side of an argument. Okay? So it's this balanced and thoughtful. Pronunciation wise, we start with on again. On, which has a short O sound, and then the, which uses a voice TH sound, and then other, again on the other. So other is this stressed word here. Then hand, it ends with hand. Hand has a it uses, I'm sorry for that, it uses a short vowel sound. So all in all, this is on the other hand. Again, on the other hand. Next, to illustrate this point, meaning to give an example. So you try to introduce an example that helps explain or supports the point you just made. It's a signal to the reader or the listener that the abstract idea is about to be made more understandable through a concrete case or situation. So it's just, using examples where it's very helpful because it shows that your arguments are grounded in real situations, which makes your message clearer and more persuasive, of course. So you try to say this before giving an example, just to clarify a concept with real life detail. So it's helpful and explanatory in tone. Pronunciation wise, we have it starts with to, we're familiar with that. And then illustrate, where the first syllable il is a stressed syllable. And then straight here, it has a diphthong A sound. And then this, we're familiar with that. Voice TH sound is used here. And to illustrate this point, point. So here, point, it has a clear diphthong sound, oi. Again, oi, that's a diphthong sound. So all in all, this is to illustrate this point. Again, to illustrate this point. And next, as a result of this. Again, as a result of this. So, meaning because of this, it is used to show cause and effect. It explains that something happened because of what was just described. So, as a result of this, it's a formal way to connect an action or event with its consequence. It's very useful in academic, in scientific, or persuasive writing to make logical relationships between ideas clear. So it helps you explain outcomes in a smooth, professional way that guides the reader through your logic. So as a result of this, it's logical and formal. And pronunciation wise, it starts with us, which has a buzzing sound despite its spelling, and then followed by a schwa sound, ah. And then next is result. So zolt, the second syllable is stressed, and of this. So we're familiar with those two. So all in all, this is as a result of this. Again, as a result of this. And lastly, we have in conclusion. To sum up, basically, it is used at the end of an argument, a presentation, or essay to introduce the final summary or main takeaway. So it helps signal to the reader or listener that the discussion is wrapping up and that the important final point is coming. So it is often followed by a restatement of the main idea or a final judgment. It gives your speech or your writing a clear ending and helps your audience remember your key points. So it's formal and it's summarizing. Pronunciation wise, we start with in, which has a short E sound. We're familiar with that already. Conclusion. So that's the highlight of this phrase, conclusion. It has the stress syllable is on the second syllable clue, which has a long U sound, and then shon. So again, this is in conclusion. Again, in conclusion. So that's the last phrase for the set for structuring ideas. And with that same pattern, same process, we will have a practice drill. Again, I just want you to read the sentence with me in your own comfortable spaces. Starting with the first sentence. First and foremost, safety should be our top priority in any new project. The company is expanding its product line, and in addition to this, it is opening new international branches. Online learning offers great flexibility. On the other hand, it requires strong self-discipline. Many species are endangered due to habitat loss. To illustrate this point, consider the rapid decline of the orangutan population. Food prices increased significantly as a result of this severe drought. And lastly, all the evidence points to a need for immediate action. In conclusion, we must implement sustainable practices without delay. So that is, or those are, phrases for structuring ideas. We shall move on to another set of phrases for comparison and contrast. So starting with a word, a phrase here. Before that, phrases for comparison and contrast. So when we try to say for comparison and contrast, many TOEFL tasks involve analyzing similarities and differences. Now, this table, it provides you with the linguistic tools to effectively compare and contrast various elements, various ideas or situations. So we will explore phrases that highlight similarities, that emphasizes the differences, or just to present a balanced view when discussing two or more items. So these are vital for analytical tasks in both speaking and writing. Starting with the word or the phrase similarly, which is which means in the same way. So it is used to show that two or more ideas, actions, or situations are alike in some way. So it helps us connect thoughts smoothly when you're comparing related points or presenting parallel arguments. So it usually or often used in academic and formal writing to kind of like maintain logical flow and highlight patterns of consistencies. So this phrase, it helps reinforce a message by drawing attention to repeating themes or comparable cases, which is especially useful when building a strong line of reasoning or supporting a main idea with related evidence. So you try to use this phrase when comparing two similar ideas or situations, basically, or you just want to link two examples that support the same conclusion. So use this in an essay, in formal writing, or even in speaking. Okay? Pronunciation wise, so this is just only one word, but it has similarly. It has four distinct sounds or four syllable. Starting with C. Sim. I think sim is the first syllable. Yeah. Sim, which has a strong short E sound here. And then it is followed by E, short E sound. And then la, similar. So lor is third syllable or distinct sound, which has a short A sound followed by an R sound, letter R sound, and it ends the word or the word ends with li, which has a short E sound. So similarly, no, not short but long E sound. So again, this is similarly. Similarly, first syllable sim is the stressed syllable here. So similarly. Again, similarly. Next, in contrast to. In contrast to or meaning unlike. So it introduces a difference or an opposite idea. It is used when you want to clearly show one thing is not like the other. So this phrase, it is often used in analytical writing, especially when comparing two sides of an argument or just two results or two ideas. So it's a valuable tool in argumentative writing for presenting alternative views or unexpected outcomes. Because here you want to highlight opposing ideas or trends, or you want to make clear distinctions between subjects. So in contrast to, it is objective and explanatory by nature. Pronunciation wise, we start with in, we're familiar with that, and then contrast, where con is the stressed syllable, and then to. So this is in contrast to. Again, in contrast to. Next, a word still, whereas. Again, whereas. It means while, but. So it is a conjunction used to show a contrast between two clauses or statements. It's commonly found in formal writing, particularly academic essays or reports. So it allows the writer to present one idea and immediately introduce a second opposite idea in the same sentence. Okay? So it's more formal than just using but and helps create balance in complex sentences. So, yeah. For pronunciation, there is two distinct sounds for the word. Starting with where, which is the stressed syllable. Here, it has a short e sound. And then as, which has a short a sound and a buzzing sound at the end, despite the spelling where it uses the letter s. So this is whereas. Again, whereas. Next phrase is despite this. So even though, that's the meaning. It introduces an idea that contrasts with what has just been said, usually highlighting an expected or contradictory outcome. So it's a concise way to express contrast without using longer phrases like even though or although. So it's just, it's particularly useful in formal arguments or reports where showing contrast or surprising result is important to the overall point. You want to show contradiction or unexpected outcomes, or when something happens even though it seems unlikely. You can use that. Despite this, it's usually surprise or neutral. Despite this. Pronunciation wise, we have this, despite, where it has this two distinct sounds, starting with D. Yeah, it starts with D, which has a short E sound, and then spite, which has a diphthong sound I. So this is also the stressed syllable of the word. Spite. And then it ends with this. We're familiar with that. So this is despite this. Again, despite this. Next phrase, unlike the previous case. Again, unlike the previous case, this is meaning this is different from before. So it is used to point out that something is different from what was described earlier. So this kind of comparative structure, it makes writing easier to follow and more persuasive because you want to contrast with an earlier example when you use this phrase, or you want to clearly point out a change or difference. So it's formal and comparative by nature. And in pronunciation, it starts with the word unlike, where un, the first syllable is stressed, and then like has a diphthong I sound. Then it's followed by the, we're familiar with that. Then previous, which has two distinct sound. First syllable pre is the stressed syllable, and then views. Views. Lastly, we have case, which has a diphthong sound A in the middle. So this is, all in all, unlike the previous case. Again, unlike the previous case. Lastly, the last phrase for comparison and contrast is on a similar note. Again, on a similar note, meaning also worth mentioning. So it is a phrase that introduces an idea that is related to, or it supports what has just been said. It is often used in presentations, in essays, or discussions to keep the flow going smoothly while moving to another but related point. So basically it's a useful phrase for transitions that maintain consistency and build stronger arguments. So you use this when adding a related idea or to connect similar thoughts. So it's conversational and smooth on a similar note. In pronunciation, you start with on, we're familiar with that, as well as a, and then similar, which has three distinct sounds. Sim, first syllable, is the stressed syllable here. And then note has a diphthong sound O. So all in all, this is on a similar note. Again, on a similar note. And that's the last phrase again for comparison and contrast. Of course, we will not proceed with the last set of phrases without a practice drill. So let's practice the phrases that we've talked for comparison and contrast, starting with similarly. Let's try to read the sentence. Solar power has become significantly cheaper. Wind power similarly is seeing reduced production costs. In contrast to the last quarter, sales figures have seen a slight decline. Some prefer to work from home, whereas others thrive in an office environment. The project faced numerous setbacks. The team, despite this, managed to secure a victory. Unlike the previous case, the current situation requires immediate intervention. And lastly, the first experiment yielded promising results. On a similar note, the second trial also showed a positive outcome. So those are, again, the phrases for comparison and contrast. And the last set of phrases is on formal cause effect and academic reasoning. So in academic context, it is often necessary to explain why something happens or what is its consequences. So this final table, it focuses on formal language used to express cause and effect, relationships, and other forms of logical reasoning. We will look at phrases that demonstrate causality, that indicates results and articulate complex chains of events or logical deductions, so which are frequently, required in higher level academic discussions. Starting with the phrase, due to a number of factors. Again, due to a number of factors, meaning for many reasons. It is a formal phrase used to explain that something happened because of multiple causes. So this expression is common in academic and professional writing because it avoids vague generalizations and introduces a multi-cause explanation. So you use this phrase to show that you're thinking analytically and considering multiple influences behind an outcome. So it is objective and analytical in tone. So in pronunciation, we start with ju, which has a long u sound here, and then two, we're familiar with that. A number of. So number, two distinct sounds. We start with num, which is the stressed syllable here, and then factors, where the stressed syllable is on the first syllable, fag, and then tors, which ends with a buzzing sound. So all in all, this is due to number of factors. Again, due to number of factors. Next phrase, this can be attributed to. Again, this can be attributed to this, meaning this is the reason for. So it's a formal way of identifying the cause of something. It means that a particular outcome or situation is caused by a specific factor. So it is really powerful. This phrase is powerful in academic reasoning because it connects effect to cause clearly and precisely. It is often used in scientific context, scientific, activities, scientific sentences, or something like that, or even in historical or social analyses where clear causality must be shown. It implies that the conclusion is based on evidence or logical reasoning rather than, guesswork or assumptions, which is not good practice for scientific analysis. Okay, so it's formal and precise basically. Now, pronunciation wise, this can be attributed to, we're going to focus on unfamiliar terms, not unfamiliar terms, but what I mean with unfamiliar is that we weren't able to discuss it yet in our discussion or in our session today. This can be all things or words that I already mentioned in the previous discussion. So we are not going to focus on that. We're going to focus on attributed, which has 4 distinct sounds. And then it starts with a, which is a schwa sound, and then trib, which is the stressed syllable here, and then u, short u sound, and then it ends with ted. So to is also a familiar word. So all in all, this can be attributed to. Again, this can be attributed to. Next phrase is this results in, meaning this causes. So it's a concise phrase used to indicate that the outcome or consequence of an action or situation is shown. So it signals a cause-effect relationship and is frequently used in both academic and professional contexts. So it's particularly effective when summarizing your findings, you want to state consequences, or you want to describe effects in clear, formal ways. So this phrase, it can really help your audience follow logical reasoning and understanding the impact of a particular factor or event, which makes it a staple in scientific and analytical writing. Pronunciation-wise, when we talk about the pronunciation of this word, of course, how do you say this? We have, we're going to focus on unfamiliar results. Yeah, results. I think we've already talked about this, but we try to focus on this one because it has the stressed syllable, which is the second syllable, salts. So this is, again, the phrase is, this results in. Again, this results in. Zolts has a buzzing sound. So this results in. Next phrase, it is worth mentioning that. Again, it is worth mentioning that, meaning it's important to say. Again, it's important to say. So it is used when you want to add an important point that might not be the main focus, but still deserves, of course, an attention. It often introduces relevant background, context, or clarification that supports your main point. So this phrase, it really helps you structure information carefully and highlight details that the audience or the reader should consider. It shows thoughtfulness and attention to depth, which are valued in academic and formal writing. So in pronunciation, we focus on worth also. Worth, it has a short O sound, worth. So yeah, it has a short O sound. And then it ends with a voiceless TH sound. Mentioning has 3 distinct sounds, starting with men, which is stressed syllable. Here, it uses a short E sound, and then shon, Tion. Tion, it's pronounced again as shon. And then ning, which has ing, which ends with a nasal sound, ng, or ng sound. And then, so all in all, it is worth mentioning that. This highlights the importance of, Again, this highlights the importance of basically, it means this shows why it matters. So it is this phrase, it's a powerful one because it used to draw attention to something meaningful or significant. It emphasizes why a certain point, a certain event or detail should not be overlooked. Okay, it highlights the importance of early intervention in education. That's an example sentence for that. We will try to use this phrase. So it is useful when analyzing results, when you try to emphasize consequences or summarize lessons that you have learned. So you use this phrase, you can show that you are identifying what truly matters in a discussion because it helps the readers or the listeners focus on the takeaway. It is especially useful in conclusions, in summaries, or when you're trying to guide analysis. Okay? So pronunciation wise, we're focusing on highlights, which has a two distinct sound, diphthong sound I. And then lights as well, it has a diphthong sound I. Okay, highlights. And then importance, you're familiar with that also. So this highlights the importance of. Okay, and we are on our last phrase for today's discussion, which is a key takeaway is that. Again, a key takeaway is that. So, meaning an important point to remember. So, it is a clear and concise phrase that you can use to introduce a main point, an insight, or also or even just a conclusion that the reader or listener should remember. So, it is that a key takeaway is that. So that is this phrase is it signals that what follows is essential. This phrase it enhances clarity and helps audiences with key, which has a long e sound. This is stressed syllable, and then take away three distinct sounds starting with take, which is the stressed syllable in this word. It has a clear diphthong sound. A take a. So yeah, that's all. A key takeaway is that. Again, a key takeaway is that with me. Starting with this first one. Due to a number of factors, student engagement has significantly increased this semester in physical activity among children. While discussing the benefits of exercise, it is worth mentioning event injury. The sharp tips, that's the focusing on insightful and that you feel more confident about tackling these essential elements of the TOEFL exam. So remember, I just want function and recognizing them in context and actively integrating them into your own speaking and writing. So in your daily English conversations, it will really help a lot. And don't be afraid for any mistakes because it means that you are learning. So mistake is part of the process. Don't be afraid of that. So let's continue to build on this foundation and the next, session.